In this edition of the Sports Reporters, you might now call them the New York Packers, but are these Jets more likely to soar or flame out? In the NFC East, where once there were title dreams, now hope and civility are in short supply. And as the new NBA season nears, a must-see multi-generational drama is unfolding in LA. I'm Jeremy Schaap, and these are today's Sports Reporters.
Hi, I'm Dan Patrick, 18-year veteran at the mothership, now released from prison, and I'm on my own.
Hey, I'm Bill Rhoden with ESPN's Andscape. Listen, I did the Sports Reporters, the original Sports Reporters, for 27 years. And all I can say, Jeremy, it's great to be in the company of Dan and Adam and Tracy, and it's great to be back home.
I'm Adam Schefter, and I'm an alum of the Sports Reporters and Tracy Wolfson's college.
I'm Tracy Wolfson, Go Blue, and I'm honored to be here, 20-plus years at CBS Sports, and I'm broadcasting from my home here in New Jersey.
We're right in the thick of the NFL season, so let's start with the NFL, and let's start with that team not too far from Tracy's home, the New York Jets. Another crushing loss, another major personnel change. Dan, right now, at this moment, more than a year after the deal was made, how are we grading the Aaron Rodgers experiment?
Well, I don't want to go into the basement and watch it because it may detonate, but I'm still fascinated. It's incomplete, and I do give the Jets credit. They did go all in. Now, they may go all in the deep end and drown here, but they at least tried. I think this is going to be a rebuild in 2 years anyway, no matter what happens with Rodgers. But the fact that they acquiesced to him, now it's on him, nobody else. And I am fascinated to watch this. It is definitely that car crash on the side of the road. And so far, there's been some fatalities.
Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, and I've become less of one with every passing hour. I think it's a failed experiment, and you know, the thing that we learned not only from Woody but also from Jerry Jones, it's just a shame that owners cannot fire themselves. You know, I thought Robert Saleh was a classy guy, a guy with integrity, and the more I see Aaron Rodgers, the less and less I like him, and I like what I see. So,
Adam.
You know, Dan touched on it, right? The Dallas Cowboys were the team that was supposed to be all in, and the Jets are the team that keeps trading away future draft picks like they don't matter, so that there's going to be a price to pay in some future year. After Joe Douglas's contract expires as the general manager of the Jets, when we don't know who the head coach will be, when we don't know who the quarterback will be, Woody Johnson is expected to be the owner when all these draft picks are paid out and the bill comes due. But for the time being, they don't have to worry about that. And so they are all in. And it just feels like with the Jets, they keep doing everything. And then something inevitably goes wrong. And maybe this will be the time, finally, where it comes together and they get it right. But that has not been the history of this organization.
Tracy.
I'm the longtime Jets fan here. It's a painful existence. I was at that game on Monday night as a fan with my boys. But I have to say, let's do it. All in. Dan, you mentioned it. I really believe it excites these Jets fans. We've got 2 years, maybe if we're lucky, to feel like there's hope out there. Who knows what the future holds? So I'm going to enjoy it now. And that AFC East, it is ripe for the taking right now.
But I also look at that, though, Jeremy, and I think if you're a fan, you want your team to do something. And at least the Jets have done, they're trying. You know, if I'm a Cowboys fan, for some reason I feel worse as a Cowboy fan than I would a Jets fan, which is crazy probably to say, but at least my team is trying. The Cowboys are supposed to go all in, and they didn't go all in. And had they gone all in, maybe all in is Derrick Henry, and maybe we're talking about a different Dallas team. The Jets, it may end up ugly, but it's going to end up, you know, a complete rebuild in 2 years. So once again, They're trying. I think they're building the house, from the attic down to the foundation, unfortunately. But at least they're trying.
If I could say this, Tracy, God bless you. I stopped being a fan when I was 16 years old. I became a mercenary sports writer. But all you need to know about the Jets, man, is when you've got Fireman Ed complaining that he's being phased out. He's not getting any more airtime. If you talk about dysfunction, and I'm reading that Fireman Ed is pissed off because he's being phased out. I said, man, you just explode this organization. Fireman Ed.
Even when they're coming off the worst home loss in the Jerry Jones era, maybe especially after coming off the worst home loss since Jerry Jones took over the team, whatever is ailing this franchise and whatever's going wrong this season, what can they do at this point to fix it?
Jerry Jones, as we all know, it can be a charming guy. I've gotten beyond the charm, but I was disturbed by the radio interview when he was beating up the host, who I guess he feels he owns, and he was threatening to fire him on the kid. That to me is a little more disturbing about Jerry and the Cowboys. They're making money hand over fist. It doesn't matter if they win, if they lose. This is all the formula about the Cowboys and Jerry making money. I don't really know how much he really cares, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they don't have to win or lose because he's making so much money. So, but I am a little disturbed. I was a little disturbed by the clause coming out of Jerry in that interview with the radio host, who he inferred that he owns.
We're coming off a week here. It's really interesting where Jerry Jones chastised a radio host and Nick Sirianni went after the Philadelphia Eagles fans. So there are two people, central figures in the NFC East, that basically got into verbal confrontations, altercations, whatever you want to call it. And it felt like everybody in the world came down on Nick Sirianni, and not as many people, until Bill just now, came down on Jerry Jones. And I think Jerry got saved by the fact that his little outburst came on a day where there were 3 NFL trades later in the day. The Jets trading for Devontae Adams, the Bills trading for Amari Cooper, the Vikings reacquiring Cam Akers. And so while everybody was all caught up in all the conversations about the trades, Jerry's incident got forgotten. But now we've got 2 people in the NFC East, both under a lot of pressure, both of whom are with teams that have been underperforming, and both of whom have been called out now. And the Cowboys are in a situation where it may get worse before it gets better. Now, on the flip side, they'll be getting back some of their injured players, and they should get healthier, and Micah Parsons should come back, and Deron Bland should come back, and some of their injured players should come back. So they should, on paper, get better. But if you look at their schedule, we have the chance to be talking about the Cowboys losing more games, with Jerry having more interviews and having to answer more questions in the coming weeks. They have a very difficult schedule, and there's the real possibility that some of this losing may continue to pile up.
And let's talk about the Eagles for a second. I mean, Dan, they looked like they might be cruising to another conference title at this time a year ago. Then they lose 5 of their last 6 regular season games. They lose in the playoffs. At times it looks like now the wheels are coming off. Sirianni's got this brouhaha. What does all of it say about where they are right now as a franchise, Dan?
I just don't think he comports himself like a head coach. And maybe I'm old school, get off my lawn, but that coach on the sidelines, he's the leader. He's not engaging with fans. There's a disconnect with him and his quarterback. They have the talent, but that usually comes back to, let's start with the coach. Or, the front office has done a great job in bringing in all this talent. And I love Saquon Barkley there. They got weapons. I'm not all in on Jalen Hurts. The defense has been suspect. I didn't know they were going to miss Jason Kelce as much as they did, maybe more for leadership than anything. But this just doesn't end well. I thought he was, in jeopardy in the offseason, but bringing him back, and it doesn't feel like he's learned. You're bringing your kids into a press conference there. I don't know. They're just, it doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. And it usually doesn't end right.
Tracy, what does it look like to you right now?
Dan, everything you're saying I love, because I'm going to feed off that and talk about the culture. And I know from standing on a sideline, you can tell when a team has it by the culture, by the leadership. It stems at the top. I do love what Harry Roseman has done, who they brought in. This offense is really good. And the fact that they're struggling is suspect to me. And it's because of that leadership that you mentioned. When you don't have leadership from top to bottom, there's a problem. So something is happening behind closed doors, and they need to fix that quickly.
In Philadelphia, when you argue with the fans, you don't win. I mean, that's the beginning of the end. There's no winning there. And we've all seen instances, whether it's, the fans belting Santa Claus, when you're a guy like Sirianni, I think we could all appreciate the pressure he feels he may be under. But like you said, Dan, that's a no-win situation, and it doesn't end well. And this probably is another segment, the idea of athletes bringing kids to press conferences, man. I mean, I don't know if there should be a rule, or maybe in the next CBA or something, but just spare us. Leave the kids at home. Come in and take the slings and arrows, but don't bring the kids to the press conference.
But Bill, knowing those Philadelphia fans or Philadelphia reporters, they're still going to ask the same question whether there's a 7-year-old there. It doesn't matter. Just saying, having been there for the Flyers and the Sixers, the Eagles, the Phillies, those reporters, it doesn't matter. You can bring your grandma in there. Doesn't matter. They're asking you a tough question. I waited for Sirianni to say to his kid, earmuffs, just so he wouldn't hear what they were going to ask Dad.
Right, yeah.
Earmuffs. I was waiting for the Sirianni children. To go back at the reporters the way their dad would. I think that they're poorly coached, those kids. They should have gone back at those reporters the way that the father went after the fans. And I think, again, you forget the fans are the customers. They're your customers. So can you imagine the customers being at a restaurant that you manage, that you coach at, and they don't like the food, and all of a sudden you're saying, you don't like the food, get out of the restaurant, leave here. Too bad. That's not the way you would treat your customers. And that's essentially what he was doing to some of those fans.
So at the same time, even when a franchise is struggling, right, there's nothing like being an NFL owner. It's kind of like a license to print money. And there's a struggling franchise in Las Vegas, but they have a new minority owner, of course, who is now a member of the media like us. But there are certain restrictions that are being put in place as an owner, things that he can't do that other people in the media and in his position can do. And he can't criticize officials when he's on the air. He's going to be calling a Super Bowl. He also can't go to broadcast meetings, the meetings that broadcast teams have with the teams whose games they're covering and calling. Tracy, what is so important about these meetings? You're in these meetings all the time. You've been doing it for 20 years. What are they all about anyway? Is it a big deal?
I absolutely love being in these meetings, specifically because I love getting a chance to know the players. We sit down with the head coach and the coordinators and then the quarterback and the star offensive and defensive player, and it's really that time for me to have one-on-one time. You know what else I like? I love when I find information about injuries and players that might not play before Schefter finds out about it. I just can't announce it. So I have to wait and hold on to it. But I feel like I have a little scoop and I'm an insider. So that's what I love about being in the meetings.
I mean, it's all kind of strange, right? Because, I can't tell, the other people on the team are going to be in the meetings on the broadcast team. Can they not tell Tom Brady what they learned in the meeting? All of that stuff. How is this going to work, Dan?
Well, I think the further removed that Tom is from the game, the more it might impact him. He's not going to last 10 years doing this, but 5 years out, does he still know the people in the game, talking to the people? And you're right. You can disseminate information and give it to Tom and say, hey, this is what they were doing in practice. But it just feels like the NFL has created the Tom Brady rules, and he's going to be treated differently than anybody else would be in this situation.
Well, I'm just fascinated. I think we've got to expand our definition of what is media and what actually is journalism, because I think it's become really, really, really blurred. Guys sitting up there talking about I'm part of the media. I'm like, listen, you don't do what I do. you know. But with Brady, I guess I'm just curious to find out what his role will be with the Raiders. Is he going to be giving them the knowledge about football knowledge, about um, uh, who you should draft, or coaches, or that kind of thing? I'm just really, or is it just a figurehead?
But I can't
And the role,
imagine Brady being a figurehead, Bill. He's so
yeah,
competitive. He's going to be all
yeah,
in. Mark Davis is going to lean on him, and he's already leaned on him. And why wouldn't you? Because he's going
right,
to. He probably reached out and said, "What do you think, Devontae Adams? Hey, Max Crosby." I mean, I would. You might be a minority, but you got
Well,
a majority of time with me in my mind of talking to me. I would tap into Brady, and I would tap into how competitive he's going to be. I mean, he wants to be great as a broadcaster. He certainly wants to be great as an owner.
Well, is it tenable, Adam? I mean, when you look at what's going on and the restrictions and the role he's going to have in Las Vegas,
yeah.
especially if he's not a figurehead of some kind, then how does this
right.
play out?
Well, again, I'd like to think, and maybe I'm being naive, I'd like to think that Tom Brady is going to be professional enough that he's going to comport himself like the pro that he's always been. So that if he were in a production meeting and he knew that the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver wasn't playing, that he wouldn't walk out of the meeting and be like, oh, let me call Antonio Pierce and let him know that that wide receiver is not playing. Do you really think that that's what Tom Brady is doing? That he's using the information, that he wants to violate his job to try to help the team, that he owns a small percent? Like, I just don't believe that. But beyond that, yes, he will have a role with the Raiders. To Dan's point, I don't know that Mark Davis called him to consult on trading Devontae Adams or whether they should hold on to Max Crosby. But Mark Davis himself said, look, they're going to be in the quarterback market in 2025. He absolutely is going to lean on Tom Brady and asking him who he thinks is going to be a successful pro quarterback. And he's going to want Brady to spend time with the quarterback that the Raiders do draft. He's going to try to play to Tom's strengths. So clearly, there are going to be ways that they try to utilize Tom and the experiences he's had. But do I think that Tom is going to be deployed as some double spy in production meetings to get information to the Raiders that can help them win a game? Look, this isn't Al Davis owning the team where, this is a little bit different day and age, okay? I just don't believe that those sort of things are going to happen.
All right, enough about the Wolverines. Let's talk about college football. This is really kind of a watershed season, right, in the college game, the conference realignments, these matchups that we're not accustomed to seeing, the 12-team playoff with so much disruption. How are we seeing the way that it affects the regular season that we're in the middle of, Tracy?
Well, I can tell you, as a Michigan Wolverine fan, and Adam, I'm sure, would agree, normally at this time, if we go out and we lose to Washington, who's in our conference, our season is over, right? You're miserable. You don't want to watch another game. But with this 12-team playoff, you actually feel like you have a shot. And with all these teams you're playing that maybe you're not used to playing, and, especially in the Big Ten, you have teams going on the road and trying to play cross country, which only 3 of them have been able to win. And I don't know, that Penn State USC game, not so sure Penn State should have won that one. So I can tell you there's still hope. Normally, before the 12-team playoff, you felt like you lost a game and your season was completely over. I love it. It makes more games count towards the end. I think there's a lot of excitement right now surrounding college football and big games each week that we look forward to.
I had washed my hands of college football, college athletics, probably for years, probably because of Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has made college football more palatable to me. And also, I guess because I felt that the college athletes were probably the most exploited athletes of all in the entire industry because of NIL now, because of NIL deals, because of, I feel I could watch it more because at least we're talking about the 12-team playoffs and the conference realignment. And I look at all this stuff prior to NIL and that stuff and say, this is the worst form of exploitation, at least now. It's a little palatable because at least athletes are kind of getting in on it. They're getting a slice of it.
I love it. I think that when it first came out, I railed on the fact that you're holding a lottery ticket. You had a winning lottery ticket. And I kept saying to these college football chancellors, presidents, anybody who would listen, you got a lottery ticket. You got 14 playoff. Go to 12. Check out how much money you're going to make. Now, that makes all of these games during the regular season where you can lose a game. You might be able to lose 2 games and still make the playoffs. And I love that fascination here. People thought, oh, the regular season won't mean anything. No, it means more because more teams are now affected by this. A 14 playoff, you might have 10 teams who could still be in the chase. Now with 12, you could have 25. Those games are going to matter, and the seeding is going to matter. And the money, you have a lottery ticket. 12 teams is a pit stop. We're going to get to 24 teams. At some point, there's going to be a collective bargaining agreement with this. I mean, this is big business. Nobody's kidding anybody. There's going to be profit sharing where you're going to have 75% of the money going to college football teams and 25% to all the other, programs at schools. That's what this is coming down to. I mean, it's don't tell me it's, what was it, Walter Byers back in 1976 who called them student athletes, and we're like, yeah, no, they're athletic students is what they are. They're getting money now. They should be getting money now. You got billions. They were getting pennies. How about we meet somewhere in between here? Let's be in business together. I love the playoffs. More teams. Maybe Army or Navy gets in this year. Who would have thought? How awesome could that be? Got underdog stories. You got favorites here. You're going to have home field advantage. You're going to have the bowl games. Remember, they were worried about the pageantry of the bowl games. We'll lose that. That's BS. College football is headed towards the same formula we have with the NFL and the Premier League. I'd love to have relegation. I'd love to have some teams that, hey, these games mean something, or now we drop you out of the top 50 teams or schools that are eligible. Bring it on. Let's go. Let's not kid anybody. Hold the curtain. This is business.
Adam.
And because it's business, Dan, you said 24 teams. Why stop there? Why not match the NCAA basketball tournament? What are there, 64 teams in there at this point in time? Shorten the regular season, expand the postseason, more money. Why not, right? If we're going to be blowing up things and transforming the system and trying to enrich the schools and the NCAA and the players themselves, grow the postseason program. Don't stop at 24, Dan. Keep growing. 48, 64, you come up with the number. Make it even bigger.
Are you being serious, Adam? Or are you being facetious?
Why not? Why not?
Well,
in college football, why not? How big is the college basketball
tournament? At a certain point, how many games can they play, right? Football's more demanding. I mean, there still is, even if we're...
And they are athletic students.
It's just, I mean...
So shorten the regular season, Jeremy. Shorten the regular season. Big deal.
Is there, I mean, it was a lie for a long time, the whole idea of the student athlete, right? But does there have to be something done to preserve some semblance of the relationship between education and college sports?
Oh, that horse has left the barn. Seriously, I mean, like years ago.
Come on.
You know, I can say, really, I mean, everybody on this in this panel knows that, you know, whether it's Michigan or whether it's, you know, whatever, except I went to an HBCU, we still value education. But, you know, I think that, and that is my concern, that we continue to drift further and further from the educational mission. With the transfers, I mean, you know, players transferring 2, 3, 4 times for playing time. I just think we've drifted further and further away from the educational mission of these universities.
Meanwhile, we're in the middle of the league championship series in baseball. The ratings have been up for baseball in this postseason. Historically, you know, they've been on a downward trend for the most part for a very long time. We've got the biggest stars in the game still playing right now, Ohtani, Soto, and Judge, and Lindor. Dan, you're an old school baseball guy. Does this feel like those days when baseball was really at the center of our national dialogue about sports again?
Oh, I don't think it'll ever return to that. But I do think that baseball's had a good year. I think baseball had a really good year. You know, we're speeding up the game. There's stolen bases now. There's movement. My big issue with baseball has been it's basically I'm throwing 100. Let me see if you can hit it out of the ballpark. And, you know, what I lament is I hope we get back to having pitchers in baseball, not throwers, because at some point somebody's going to go, I don't know if we want to have our entire staff with Tommy John surgery. How about we have some guys who can have location and movement on a baseball and that we're not trying to just throw it by you? And we might have hitters who get on base, do something crazy like a hit and run, maybe a bunt, maybe a stolen base. Baseball was movement. Baseball became stagnant. Baseball became boring. I know we get caught up in he's throwing 100. Well, you know what? I'll give you anybody in baseball throwing 100, and you give me Greg Maddux, and I'll take my chances against your pitcher. I don't care who it is. I'll take Greg Maddux. I want guys who put the ball in play. And, you know, when Kyle Schwarber bats his, not even his weight, because that'd be like 260. So he's probably batting 210, but he hits all these home runs and he walks, and oh my God, that's the ideal leadoff guy. I guess I would take Rod Carew or Wade Boggs or somebody like that, but, you know, call me crazy. That's what I think baseball is missing, that putting the ball in play, movement there. You do have star power because Mike Trout's going to end his career with 3 playoff appearances. And that was against Kansas City. And that's going to be it. So the best player, or one of the best players of our generation, unless he's dealt, is not going to play in a playoff game again. Ohtani's on center stage. The Dodgers on center stage. You got Judge on center stage. That's what you want. You want to have stars. That's what we want in any other sport. You want the stars to be on front and center. So I think baseball did a really good job this year, and it's been a while since I've been able to say that.
I think we want to see LA and the Yankees. You want to see Aaron Judge and you want to see Ohtani. Personally, that's what I would want to see. I think the rest of the country would want to see it, and I think it would make for an incredible World Series.
You want to see Cleveland?
Now, that's a Michigan education right there. That's a Michigan education coming right out there, right there. That's very good, Tracy.
All right, let's talk.
I can separate my personal views sometimes, you know.
Go Yankees, go Mets.
I think I'm with Dan. I think LA Yankees makes the most sense for baseball, but it's not as if we get to choose. The WNBA, as we all know, is wrapping up this remarkable season of growth and interest. And it comes off the heels of what Caitlin Clark helped achieve at Iowa for the last couple of years, those remarkable ratings, the women's tournament outrating the men's. But there have been some growing pains as well, right? And we've seen a lot of it on social media. We've seen tensions between fans and players. We've seen the league and the Players Association, tensions with the media. We've seen issues touching on homophobia and misogyny and racism. So when you think about the big picture and the Caitlin Clark effect and what's going on in the WNBA, what stands out to you right now?
Yeah, I mean, personally, the WNBA is such an inclusive league. So for me to see the vitriol that's out there on social media and the players having to deal with it and deleting their accounts, and to have an app that does it for them now, and just to really have to deal with this every day when all they want to do is go out and play the game, I think it's terrible, and I feel for them. And first of all, a lot of them need social media to help in terms of their marketing capabilities. And so it's difficult for them. They shouldn't have to go through it. I've been so impressed with the product on the court. Over 200% viewership increase since Caitlin Clark has come in. And it's not just Caitlin Clark, it's Angel Reese, and it's so many more of them as well. And we can go back to the, college basketball and the NIL. That's really what helped in terms of making Caitlin Clark's profile even greater than it was, and the way she's been able to be out there and what she's been able to carry out onto the court. By the way, you can just look to that shot by Ionescu the other day. That was incredible. That scene was awesome. Minnesota was rocking. It was a packed house. That's what I love to see from the WNBA. That product is awesome, and they are really growing.
Dan, you're a hoops guy.
I think what's great with college basketball for women is they stay for 4 years. So we get to know Paige Beckers. We're going to get to know Juju. We're going to get to know all of these players. Whereas college basketball is really not interesting during the regular season because we didn't wait for somebody to come back their sophomore year or their junior year. We were treated to Tim Duncan staying 4 years, Patrick Ewing staying, Christian Laettner. It doesn't happen. Women's basketball, that person will be back the following season and probably the following season after that. And then, so we already know you going into the WNBA. It almost felt like the WNBA wasn't ready for what Caitlin Clark was going to bring with her. And that meant you were going to have people not familiar with the WNBA. I was shocked that fans were shocked, so-called fans, with the physicality of the WNBA. You clearly haven't watched the WNBA. They are physical. And all of a sudden, it's Caitlin Clark's getting roughed up. Well, there's a variety of players who get roughed up. Watch the games. Watch other games. It felt like they were zeroing in on our little Caitlin Clark, and she's getting roughed up. Was she? Yes. But that's the physicality of this. She's a wonderful player. She brought a lot of eyeballs. And because of that, she brought a lot of opinions. It's almost be careful what you ask for. And I don't think the WNBA was truly ready for what was going to happen with the casual fan coming in.
You know, it kind of brings us back to 1997, right, when Tiger Woods broke through at the Masters as a 21-year-old, that remarkable performance. And I'm trying to think, has there been an athlete since Tiger Woods, and of course his impact extended beyond the golf course, but in terms of the way they have generated interest in their game, in their sport, the way that Caitlin Clark has there been anybody else, and I'll put you on the spot, Adam, that you could think of, I mean, in this quarter century plus since Tiger?
No, but you know, here's the thing, Jeremy. Again, this morning we're doing Sports Center, we're doing Get Up. I'm seeing highlights of the WNBA, and the last time I did Sports Reporters, I don't remember the WNBA being a conversation and talking point. I don't remember that being the case. The fact that it is so prevalent in mainstream highlights that we're talking about it here shows the growth of the sport, shows the power of Caitlin Clark, shows you how many more people are paying attention to it. I think there are people that come along all the time that capture the imagination of the public. Caitlin Clark has grown all the eyes on that sport. And I don't know that there's a figure that I could think of off the top of my head that has had the influence and the impact that she has had. But again, I just think the whole sport has taken leaps and bounds. So we can talk about them needing leadership and getting used to all the ways that they're being scrutinized, the attention. This all comes along with being a big-time, big league sport.
Look,
but also it helps, though, Schefter, with being on the mothership, that it's like hockey going back to ESPN was the best thing to happen to hockey because you're getting those highlights now where maybe you weren't getting those highlights, you know, back in the day or, you know, they were buried. Now they're showcasing, now they're celebrating, and I think that's really important. The audience will kind of buy into what you're buying into. What are you covering? Hey, we're going to be talking about this. Hey, you want to see this game coming up. Why? I mean, sometimes you got to spoon feed your audience and let them know this is something you truly want to watch. ESPN plays a large role in moving forward in some of these sports like that.
There's no question about that. Look, Bill, I promised Adam that we would get to the NBA because it is truly his passion. And we're running out of time. So
let's go.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Let's start, Adam. You know,
Adam, we have until June. We got to do June, Adam.
He's an insider now in the NBA.
That's right. So when you think about this season that's about to begin, and we know the Celtics are favored to repeat as champions, well, what's most intriguing to you right now? And we'll get to LeBron and Bronny. We're legally obligated to. But in terms of teams, Adam, what are you thinking about?
Well, first and foremost, let me set the record straight with Dan here. Dan, I did not become an insider. The talks were preliminary.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Never advanced to an advanced level. I would have been open to it, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a closet news junkie on the side and look out for NBA information. But getting past that, I think the team that we need to focus on this season, because this will impact the way Jeremy thinks as well, because it impacts LeBron James and Bronny James. Watch out for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're coming this year. And I don't remember the last time we had a victory parade through the streets of Oklahoma City, but I think that could be coming this year with that Thunder team being as good. Now, I know Isaiah Hartenstein just went down, has a finger injury, thumb injury, whatever it may be, hand injury, 5-6 weeks. That's a blow to the team, but that team has got so much talent, has been built the right way, that this to me is shaping up as an Oklahoma City Thunder type of season, according to my sources, Dan.
Well, you didn't mention Chet Holmgren has changed his shooting style from three-point range. I mean, let's go all in, a deep dive into your Oklahoma City Thunder. I do think they're a wonderful team, a great story. Feels like they got 68 first-round picks coming up as well, so they're in good shape. But it's the overriding LeBron and Bronny trumps everything. It dominates. Nobody's going to talk about the Celtics during the regular season.
Well, what are they going to do? Let's just put this out there, as everyone already has. But how are the Lakers going to manage this if he's not productive?
Well, no, they're just going to give him a celebratory appearance like opening night, and then maybe on Christmas he'll be there. I think he should be spending the entire season in the G League, because the pressure that's on him. I watched him against Golden State the other night, and before you say, boy, how about get a life, Dan? You're right. But I was watching for Dalton Connect because that guy can play. Kid out of Tennessee. LeBron, Bronny comes in and you can't help but root for him, but he's just not ready to contribute. And it's almost like, hey, let's put Bronny. They were chanting Bronny. They wanted him to play. I don't think he's going to be up there. But look, if it helps LeBron, keeps LeBron engaged, keeps LeBron in a Laker uniform, he wants to play, then I think it's a positive. How many guys drafted 55th do you go, whatever happened to him? What a bust. He was drafted 55th. Maybe he gets to play a little bit there. It's a cute story. Do I think it ruined the Lakers or means they're not serious, as DeMarcus Cousins said recently? No, they're serious. Because LeBron wants to win one more title. He's still chasing Mike. So it's going to be a big, big story. It shouldn't be as big as it's going to be, but I'm going to blame SportsCenter. When all else fails, blame SportsCenter.
You're not the only one, Dan. Tracy, Bill, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think it's great that they're having this opportunity to play together. Certainly, LeBron and all that he's done and all he's done for the Lakers deserves this opportunity to play with his son, whether he plays or not, just to be in the same organization. I thought it was interesting when he talked to reporters and they asked him a question about Bronny, and he said, go ask Bronny. Right? Like, he's the guy now. He's his own person. He can answer his own questions. Who knows if they wind up on the court this year together and how much they play together. But certainly, as you said, Dan, it keeps LeBron with the Lakers. It keeps him in a uniform. It keeps him playing. And no doubt, it's going to motivate him to try and win one more championship so that his son could get a ring as well alongside him. I think it's a great story. If it means that's why we're going to tune in to watch these games, it's great for the NBA.
Yeah, I just think it's a manufactured story. And let me just say this. I mean, I respect LeBron, who's gone from, from kid out of high school, and he's met every type of expectation. He's gotten power and all that. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate, as parents, we'll do everything we can do to advance our children. Everything we can do to advance our children. That includes LeBron James. It includes making sure his son gets something that maybe he did not deserve. So getting back to the original question about the NBA, I think that the real NBA, real competition, I think the Celtics are probably the most motivated team in the NBA, because you got two superstars on that team who come into the season pissed off. Jason Tatum comes in because he was humbled during the Olympics. Jaylen Brown comes in because he was humbled by being left off the team. I think that the Celtics are probably the most motivated team in the NBA.
Bill Rhoden, Dan Patrick, Adam Schefter, Tracy Wolfson, You guys have been spectacular. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sports Reporters. We all know what it means to sell your soul, and we understand the stakes. It's an old story told through the eons. Sacrifice that eternal part of yourself, and in return, well, you might receive some remarkable gifts. Like all the learning and wisdom amassed by humankind. That's the legend of Faust. Or you finally win the American League pennant. That's damn Yankees. Or you achieve stardom on Broadway. That is pretty much the plot of Rosemary's Baby. But what happens when you enter into such a deal and in return you get the 2024 Cleveland Browns? How do you feel when you've relinquished something sacred and been rewarded with abject failure? No demon enticed the Browns into signing Deshaun Watson to the biggest guaranteed contract ever in the NFL. They did it all on their own. They were desperate to win, desperate to move on from decades of failure, desperate for their first title since 1964. So they went all in on Watson, who at the time was being sued by 24 women accusing him of sexual misconduct. Now Watson and the Browns are 1-5, and he is last, dead last in the league in QBR. In 2.5 seasons in Cleveland, he hasn't looked anything like the player he was in Houston. And with each passing day, the deal that was supposed to make the Browns great looks more wrong-headed. So to review, for 9 total wins, all that the Browns have surrendered is $220 million. And, of course, their souls. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Sports Reporters.